The rain hammered against the windows of Tom Bradley's small apartment above the closed garage, each drop echoing the uncertainty that had plagued his thoughts for months. At 52, the veteran mechanic found himself staring at a pile of unpaid bills scattered across his kitchen table, the harsh reality of his failing business weighing heavily on his shoulders. The auto repair shop that had been his livelihood for over 2 decades was drowning in debt, and despite his reputation for honest work and fair prices, customers had been scarce in recent months. That particular evening, as thunder rolled across the darkening sky, Tom heard an unusual sound cutting through the storm, the distinct whir of an expensive engine struggling against the elements. Peering through his rain-streaked window, he spotted a sleek, luxury sedan pulled over to the side of the road, its hazard lights blinking desperately in the growing darkness. The vehicle's hood was raised, and even from his second-floor window, Tom could see steam rising from the engine compartment. Without hesitation, Tom grabbed his weathered jacket and toolkit, pulling on his boots as he descended the stairs. Years of fixing broken machines had taught him that trouble rarely waited for convenient moments, and his instinct to help others in need had never failed him, regardless of his own circumstances. As he approached the stranded vehicle, Tom noticed the driver, a woman in an elegant business suit, her expensive shoes clearly unsuited for standing in puddles beside a disabled car. She appeared frustrated and somewhat helpless, repeatedly trying her cell phone only to shake her head in disappointment. The storm had apparently knocked out the local cell towers, leaving her as isolated as anyone else caught in the downpour. "Looks like you could use some assistance," Tom called out over the sound of the rain, his voice carrying the warmth and confidence that came from decades of helping strangers with their automotive troubles. The woman, who introduced herself simply as Sarah, seemed initially wary of accepting help from a stranger. However, as Tom began examining her vehicle with the practiced eye of someone who had diagnosed thousands of mechanical problems, her skepticism gradually gave way to relief. Within minutes, Tom had identified the issue, a burst radiator hose that had caused the engine to overheat, and explained that while he could provide a temporary fix to get her moving again, she would need proper repairs the following day. Working efficiently despite the challenging conditions, Tom managed to jury-rig a solution using materials from his shop below. As he worked, Sarah found herself impressed not only by his mechanical skill, but by his genuine desire to help without any discussion of payment or reward. In a world where she had grown accustomed to people wanting something from her, Tom's selfless assistance felt remarkably refreshing. "I can't thank you enough," Sarah said, as her car engine finally purred back to life. "Please, let me pay you for your time and trouble." Tom waved off her offer with a smile that spoke of genuine satisfaction in helping others. "Just glad I could get you back on the road safely. Drive carefully and make sure you get that hose replaced properly tomorrow." As Sarah drove away into the night, she found herself thinking about the mechanic who had appeared like a guardian angel during her moment of need. Something about his unpretentious kindness and refusal to accept payment had touched her deeply. The next morning, she returned to Tom's shop, ostensibly to have the radiator hose properly replaced, but really because she wanted to learn more about the man who had helped her without expecting anything in return. During that second visit, Sarah discovered that Tom was facing serious financial difficulties. His small shop, which had served the community faithfully for years, was struggling to compete with larger chain operations and newer facilities. Tom spoke about his situation with the same matter-of-fact honesty he brought to diagnosing mechanical problems. No self-pity, just a clear-eyed assessment of his challenges. What began as a simple automotive repair evolved into something much more meaningful. Sarah, whose full name was Sarah Montgomery and who possessed considerable wealth from her family's business empire, saw in Tom something increasingly rare in her world: authentic human decency. She began visiting the shop regularly, sometimes bringing coffee and pastries, other times simply engaging in conversations about life, dreams, and the importance of treating people with respect and dignity. Through these interactions, both Sarah and Tom discovered that despite their vastly different backgrounds, they shared fundamental values about kindness, integrity, and the importance of human connection. Sarah confided that her wealth had often been a barrier to forming genuine friendships, as people typically approached her with ulterior motives. Tom, in turn, shared his philosophy that treating people well was simply the right thing to do, regardless of their circumstances or what they might offer in return. As their friendship deepened over several months, Sarah quietly began helping Tom's business in ways that allowed him to maintain his dignity and independence. Rather than simply writing a check, she used her connections to bring customers to his shop, recommended his services to others, and eventually proposed a business partnership that would allow Tom to expand his operation while retaining full control over the day-to-day operations. The culmination of their unlikely friendship came 6 months after that rainy night when they first met. The grand opening of Bradley's Auto Care represented not just the salvation of Tom's business, but the transformation of both their lives through the power of genuine human connection. The new facility, while still reflecting Tom's unpretentious approach to customer service, was properly equipped and already boasted a substantial customer base drawn by his reputation for honest dealings and quality work. As Sarah stood beside Tom during the ribbon-cutting ceremony, watching neighbors and friends explore the expanded shop, she reflected on how that stormy evening had changed both their lives in ways neither could have anticipated. "That night in the rain changed everything for both of us," she remarked quietly, observing a young father showing his curious son how the hydraulic car lift operated. Tom nodded thoughtfully, remembering his mother's teachings about kindness being the most valuable currency anyone could possess. As he watched the community gather to celebrate his success, he realized that true prosperity wasn't measured by bank account balances or material possessions, but by the relationships formed and the positive impact made on others' lives. The evening celebration wound down with Sarah and Tom working together to clean up, their comfortable silence speaking to the depth of their friendship. As unlikely as their bond might have seemed to outside observers, the wealthy businesswoman and the neighborhood mechanic, their connection was built on the solid foundation of mutual respect and shared values. "Thank you, Tom," Sarah said, as they finished organizing the last of the cleanup. "For what exactly?" Tom replied, genuinely puzzled by her gratitude, "For seeing me as just Sarah that night, not as an opportunity or a source of money, but as someone who simply needed help." Tom hung up the final cleaning cloth and turned to face his friend, with the same straightforward honesty that had characterized their entire relationship. "That's the only way I know how to see people, Sarah, as people." In that simple declaration lay the wisdom that had guided Tom Bradley through more than 5 decades of life and would continue to shape his interactions with everyone he encountered. His success hadn't come from changing who he was, but from remaining true to his principles even when circumstances were difficult. Because genuine wealth, he had learned through experience, wasn't determined by material possessions, but by the character revealed when someone needed help and you had the opportunity to respond with kindness.